Hello everyone, welcome back to Crochet State of Mind. In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crochet this gorgeous floor length color block cardigan. This is a perfect cardigan for the fall as well as winter. So let's get started. For the materials, I used the Lion brand Pound of Love. This is a 1020 yard medium 4-weight yarn. It is 100% premium acrylic, and I am using the color Claret, which is Bordeaux. So it's more of a maroon burgundy color, and the recommended hook size is a 6mm hook, although I will be using my 6.5mm Furls crochet hook. I am also using the same yarn but in color Oxford Gray, so that would be color B. And then my third color is the Antique White. So this is a tricolor cardigan, and I'm using those 3-color yarns. Pair of scissors I'll be needing, also a tape measure as this is made to measure, a darning needle, and some stitch markers. Okay, so let's get started. I have here a cutout of how this cardigan is going to be constructed. The main body of the cardigan is going to be worked in one piece flat, so very minimal seaming or sewing. And so the entire body is going to be worked in rows, working the length of the cardigan. Front panel, back panel, and front panel are all going to be worked in one piece until we get to about this point. And then we're going to add the top panel. So top right front panel, top back panel worked in rows, and top left front panel also worked in rows. Okay, then you're going to fold your cardigan like so. You're going to seam up the top shoulders, and then you're going to work the sleeves in the round. And so when your cardigan is completed, it's going to look like this. Okay, now if you want to make this cardigan bigger or larger, you need to increase the number of stitches for your foundation row. So you need to make a long foundation row. If you want to make it smaller, smaller number of stitches in your foundation. If you want to make it longer, then you need to add more rows to your project. Okay, for the armholes, these holes are where your sleeves are going to be, so the measurements can be based on your arm. So real quick, I just want to show you the measurements that I used to make this cardigan, so feel free to pause the video and take note of this measurements. So we're going to start with the main body of this cardigan, and we're going to work our foundation row. For this cardigan and for this pattern, the foundation row needs to be an even number. However, whatever measurements you obtained for your own body, just make sure that your foundation row is an even number. So for me, it's 112 foundation extended half double crochet stitches. And I'm going to show you how to do foundation extended half double crochet stitches. Just do a chain 2, then yarn over, and in the very first chain underneath the top loop and the back loop, you're going to yarn over, pull through. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, so almost like a chain 1, and you've got 3 loops on your hook again, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, you'll have 3 loops on your hook again, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and that is your first foundation extended half double crochet stitch. I'm putting a stitch marker here to indicate that this is the first stitch of the row. So if you look closely, and I know it's a bit tough because the yarn is a darker color, but if you look closely, you'll see that you don't want to insert your hook here. Behind it, there's sort of an X right here. And so what you want to do is insert your hook underneath both loops of that X. So for your second stitch, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook underneath both loops of that X, yarn over, pull through, you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 1 again, you've got 3 loops on your hook, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. And that is your second foundation extended half double crochet. Now, I'm going to show you another. You do not insert your hook there, rather here. So yarn over, insert your hook underneath both loops of that X, then yarn over, pull through, you've got 3 loops, yarn over, pull through, you've got 3 loops again, yarn over, pull through, you've got 3 loops again, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay, Now, a foundation extended half double crochet stitch is essentially a foundation half double crochet, but with an extra chain one. So if you're not comfortable or you don't feel like you're ready to do a foundation extended half double crochet, go ahead and just do a regular foundation chain of an even number of stitches. And then for your first row, just do an even number of foundation of extended half double crochets. Okay. And so just keep doing this until you reach your desired width. For me, it's 112, but essentially you're just working this row right here. Okay, see you in a bit. All right, so we're at the end of row 1, which is my foundation extended half double crochet row. And this is what I have. So I have my desired width. And this is where you really know if you have the width that you want. So make sure that at this point you stop and you get your measurements. And now turn your work. We're not doing a chain 2 or chain 3. We're going to start our row 2, which is going to be repeated all the way to row 36. But essentially you're doing a stacked single crochet. So single crochet in the stitch below, and then in the left leg. So if you take a look at this, in the left leg, you're going to insert your hook and do another single crochet, and that's a stacked single crochet. Insert a stitch marker to indicate that that's the first stitch of the row. That counts as your first extended half double crochet. And then in the next stitch, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook, pull through. You've got 3 loops, yarn over, pull through. You've got 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's an extended half double crochet stitch. Again, yarn over, insert your hook, pull through. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 1. You've got 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. And just keep doing this until the end of the row, and then repeat that row all the way until row 36. Now, row 36 is based on my body measurement. It may be longer, shorter for you, but essentially I have 36 rows of this color. All right, and here's what I have. I'm at the end of row 36, so I've got 36 rows of color A, which is this burgundy maroon color, and this is what it looks like. Essentially what you should have is a pretty big rectangle. And at this point, we are not going to cut our yarn or anything. This is all worked in one piece. So you're going to turn our work, and now we're going to start row 37, which is going to be a puff stitch row. Okay. Now again, no turning chain, stack single crochets instead. So again, single crochet, then in the left leg, another single crochet, and that's a stacked single crochet, which would count as your first extended half double crochet, or in this case your first double crochet stitch, because puff stitches are double crochet stitches. So to do a puff stitch, first of all, the very next stitch is where you're going to do it. So yarn over, insert your hook underneath both loops, yarn over, pull through. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over again, and then insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. Then yarn over again, insert your hook in that same stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through all the way until you have 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over, pull through both loops. Okay, that's a puff stitch. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to chain 1 after the puff stitch, and we're going to skip 1 stitch. And in the next one, we're going to do the same thing. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull through. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through, insert your hook in that same hole. Again, yarn over a 3rd time, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. And then you're going to pull through until you have 2 loops on your hook. Then yarn over, pull through those 2 loops. You just created a puff stitch. Then you're going to chain 1. And this is what you have so far. Again, you're going to skip 1, and in the next stitch you're going to insert another puff stitch. So essentially for the puff stitch row, you're starting with a stacked single crochet, and then your very next stitch is a puff stitch that you're going to follow with a chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and then in the next stitch you're going to do another puff stitch, and then you're just going to keep doing that, right? So puff stitch, chain 1, skip 1, puff stitch. and so on and so forth until you get to the end of the row, and I will show you what to do once you get to the end of the row. Again, skip one after you've chained one, and then insert your and one thing I want to mention is with the puff stitch, they are double crochet stitches. You're just not completing a double crochet until you've done 3 iterations of yarn overs, and then you pull through the last 2 stitches. Okay, if you need to pause this video and rewatch it, please feel free to do so. But keep doing this until the end of the row, and I will see you at the end of the row to show you what to do next. All right, so we're almost at the end of the row, and I just want to show you what your row should look like so far. I love these puff stitches because they give this beautiful texture and look to your work. And so I'm gonna do one more puff stitch. This would be the last puff stitch of the row. And remember, after your puff stitch, chain one, skip one, and in that very last stitch you're going to do a regular double crochet. So you started the row with a double crochet stitch, really a stacked single crochet, which counts as a double crochet, and you're ending it with a double crochet. And so now we're at the end of row 37, and this is what we have so far. Okay, so at this point we are done with this color, color A. So I'm going to refer to the burgundy or the maroon as color A, and the next color, which is a gray, would be B, and then the white would be C. Okay, so now we're going to cut our yarn, and we're going to change color at this point. And this is how I change colors. Okay, so I cut my yarn and I undo the last stitch, and you'll see why I do that, because now I'm going to change to the next color. Right, so what you want to do is create 2 knots. All right, so right now what I'm going to do is create the first knot. The first knot will be the one closer to your hook or to your completed stitches. Okay, so just create a knot. This is how I'm creating my knot, and pull it tight. And then on the other side, the side furthest away from your hook, you're going to create a second knot. Okay, now that you've got your 2 knots, you're going to pull them together, right? And once that's tight, you can cut the excess yarn, or the excess end rather. And what you've effectively done is you've joined the old color with the new color. You've joined the old yarn with the new yarn. And now you can go back and reinsert your final double crochet stitch of the row. This is to make sure that the transition to the new color is seamless, and you're actually starting the next row with the new color, and there's no leftover of the previous color. Okay, and now you're going to turn your work and you're going to start the next color, row 1, and that's also going to be an extended half double crochet row, but in the back loop only. So we're first starting with our stacked single crochet, which is an alternative to chain 2. That counts as our first extended half double crochet. And now in the next stitch, which would have been that chain 1 from the row below, you're going to insert your hook in the back loop. Okay, so you have your stitch here, your chain stitch, and in that back loop you're going to insert an extended half double crochet. Okay, so again, start the row with a stacked single crochet stitch, and then your very next stitch is going to be half double crochet in the back loop only. And for the rest of the row, you're going to do extended half double crochet stitches in the back loop only until you get to the end of the row. Okay, now remember, we've just completed 37 rows of color A. Rows 1 to 36 were extended half double crochet stitches. Row 37 was a puff stitch row, and now we're starting row 1 of the color B, and that's the extended half double crochet row in the back loop only. So I will do this off camera, this is what the row looks like so far. I will see you at the end. All right, so we are now inserting our last extended half double crochet stitch of the row, and this one is going to be underneath both loops. Okay, so this is not in the back loop only. The last stitch will be under both loops, and that is the end of row 1 for color B. Okay, so turn your work, and again, we do not use turning chains here. So from rows 2 to 27, we're going to continue with our extended half double crochet stitches, and then for row 28 we're going to do a puff stitch row. So you're repeating what you did for color A, you're doing the same thing with color B until you've reached your desired height. So you can make as many rows as you want for each color. If you want the color A to be you know, taller or shorter, that's totally up to you. But I made it where the bottom color is the tallest row. Okay, so I'll see you at the end of this color. All right, so we're at the end of the color B, row 28, which is our puff stitch row. And now we're going to change color again, which I've already done off camera. Now we're moving on to color C, which is the cream color. And now we're just going to do an extended half double crochet in the back loop only, just as we did in the back, until we get to here. Okay, so we're creating one big rectangle, and then after that big rectangle we're going to work on the panel. So this is essentially what we're working on. Then we'll add this panel, which is the top front panel, and then the back panel we'll add it, and then the other front panel. Okay, but for now we're just doing the big rectangle. So see you in a bit. All right, so based on my measurements, I ended up having to only do two colors of 2 rows of the color C, and that took me up to here. Okay, so we've completed the main, back, and front panels, and now we're going to add the top. So the first top panel is what we're going to add now, and we're going to continue with this color. Okay, it just so happened that based on the measurements I only needed 2 more rows of the color white in order to get to that that height where we need to start adding the top panels. So now I'm going to turn my work in order to start working on the top right panel. And before we do that, I'm going to show you the measurements for those panels. And so for the top right panel, the width is going to be about 9 inches. Okay, so this number is what we need for the top front panels. Okay, so for both the left and the right top panel. So we're going to measure 9 inches from the edge, the right edge of the project. So working from right to left, we're going to measure 9 inches. Let me just fix this here, make sure that doesn't get in the way. And so 9 inches is this wide. And now I'm going to use a stitch marker and place it right where the 0 was on the measuring tape, right? So now we have 9 inches, and what we want to do now is count the number of stitches, right? Because what we're trying to identify is how many stitches we need to achieve 9 inches of width for the front panels. Okay, we are going to, once we have that number for the top panel, we're going to repeat that process on the left panel. Okay, and the number we have, so we want to count here, but the number we have for the top panel is 28 stitches. And you want to make sure that the number of stitches is an even number because of the puff stitches. So the puff stitch row requires an even number. So whatever number you get, if it's not an even number, just add one stitch to make it, add or remove a stitch to make sure that it is an even number. So it's okay if it's a little over 9 inches or however many inches you need for your measurements. So for me, 9 inches actually came to 28 stitches, which is already an even number. So now that we have that number, we know that the width of our front top panels is going to be 28 stitches that are going to be worked in the row until we get the height that we desire. And that height for the top panels, once we worked in the rows and get to that top, that height is going to be the armhole depth. So starting with our first row, we're going to do 28 extended half double crochet stitches for the first row and for every row thereafter until we have 12 rows of extended half double crochet stitches still in this color. Then once we get to row 13, we're going to do the puff stitches. So row 13 is going to be the puff stitch row. All right, so for a total, we'll have 13 rows. The first 12 extended half double crochet and the last one puff stitches. So this is what we have so far for the first row of those 28 half double crochet, extended half double crochet stitches. And so this is the 28th extended half double crochet stitch. So, and that's it. That's row 1 of the top right panel. And I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to continue working along the rows. All right, so I've got 28 stitches per row, and as I mentioned earlier, the first 12 rows are going to be extended half double crochet stitches, and then our 13th row is going to be a puff stitch row. So we're following the same pattern that we did for the previous colors. We're just doing it with a narrower row, right? So 28 stitches per row instead of the 112 that we used, at the bottom of the cardigan. Okay, so just keep working this until you get to the top. All right, so now we just worked 13 rows and we're at the end of row 13, which was the puff stitch row. So this is where we're at. We're working on this top right front panel, right? And so now what we're gonna do is we're going to add a 14th row that's going to be extended half double crochet stitches in the back loop only, and we are not changing color. Okay, so this is slightly different from what we did with the previous colors. Typically after the puff stitch we changed color, but we're not going to do that. From this point on until the very top of the panels, we are sticking to this color. So we're going to do our stacked single crochet, which will count here as an extended half double crochet, and then we're going to do half double crochet stitches in the back loop only, starting with that second stitch. Okay, and so in that back loop right here, you're going to work your extended half double crochet stitch, and you're going to keep doing this until the end of the row. And once you get to the end of this row, that will complete your top right front panel. All right, so I'll see you there. All right, so we are now at the end of our first top front panel, and now we can cut our yarn, and at this point you can fasten off. Okay, now do leave a tail so that you can weave it in later on. And I like to insert a stitch marker, which will come in handy when I fold the panels onto the back panels. So this is what it looks like so far. And now we're going to proceed with the other front top panel. Okay, so I'm not going to do the back yet. I'm going to do the second top front panel, and we're going to repeat what we did with that first one. All right, so I'm going to do this off camera and I'll see you at the end. All right, so I just completed the second top front panel, and it looks identical to the first one. So you do want to make sure that they are identical, and they will be if you use the same number of stitches for those two panels. Okay. All right, so now we can start working on the back top panel. Okay, so this is what we're working on now, and ultimately we want it to look like this when we're done. All right, so for this top back panel, what we're going to do is fold the front panels and then use a stitch marker to indicate where the back panel is going to start, making sure that it does line up with the front panels, right? Now, you want to make sure that you do skip a stitch between the beginning of the top panels and the beginning of the back panel. So there needs to be a space in between. And if you look closely, you can see that right here, there's one stitch, and then into the next one is where we have the stitch marker. Okay. And the reason why you want to have that space is because that space is going to be the hole that becomes the armhole depth. So same thing here. You're going to skip a stitch, and then in the next stitch you're going to insert the stitch marker, and that is where you're going to start your back top panel. So right where that stitch marker was, you're going to insert your hook, attach your yarn, again same color, and you're going to do what you did with the previous panels, except you have a different stitch count. So again, rows 1 through 12, you're going to have your extended half double crochet stitches, and then row 13 you're going to have your puff stitch row, and then row 14 you're going to have your extended half double crochet in the back loop only. The only difference between what you're doing with the back top panel and the front top panels is the number of stitches. So here we'll have 54 stitches, whereas for the front panels we had 28. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And this is how I am starting my row after I attached my my new yarn. And yeah, you'll just keep doing this until you get to the end of the top back panel. And here we are at the end of the top back panel. We have completed all of our rows, all of our top panels. And now what we want to do is lay our work. This is what the cardigan looks like so far, the main body. And this is what it looks like when the panels are placed on top of the back panel. And now we can join the top panels to the main body of the cardigan. And I just want to show you how I prepped for that. I added stitch markers, and now I'm going to start joining using a my preferred stitch is, I believe it's called the mattress stitch. I'm not quite sure, but you can use whatever sewing or stitching method you want to use, as long as you're able to join and seam those panels together. Okay, so I'm speeding this up, by the way, so if you need to slow it down, be welcome to do so. But this is what it looks like so far, with that first left panel joined with the back. And what we're going to do now that this is done is repeat for the second front panel. And this is what we have. The panels are now joined, and now we can work on the sleeves, which will be worked in the round. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm placing my cardigan horizontally, so I can have the armhole, the bottom of the armhole on my right hand side, because that's where I'm going to start. So essentially the bottom of my armpit is where I'm starting to work the sleeve in the round. So for the first round, we're going to do 54 extended half double crochet stitches. And again, you want to make sure that you're using an even number of stitches because of those puff stitches, right? So I'm just inserting my hook and creating that first stitch, which is going to be a stacked single crochet. Okay, so the very first stitch of the round is going to be a stacked single crochet, just as we did when we were working in the rows, right? Always, again, using those stitch markers, never a bad idea, especially when working in the round, so that you know where your first and last stitches are. This is especially important when we work in joined rounds. So these are not going to be continuous rounds. We're going to join each round at the end of the round. And I am going to show you how I join my round. So again, round one, we're going to do 54 extended half double crochet stitches in the color C. Okay. So I want to show you how I finish my round and how I join it before starting the next round. So this is my last extended half double crochet stitch of the round, and I'm going to mark this with the stitch marker. And so I marked the first, and I'm also marking the last stitch. This is because we're going to be turning our work after every single round. So first, we're going to remove that stitch marker from that first stitch, because that's where we're going to slip stitch and join the round, like so. Okay, that's why it was important to mark that stitch with the stitch marker. And now round two, we're going to decrease to 52 extended half double crochet stitches. So for the sleeves, we're going to start with some decreases for the first few rounds, and then we're going to keep the numbers the same. So rounds 3 to 5, we're going to do 50 extended half double crochet stitches. But for the first two, we're going to do 54, then 52. All right, so now that I've joined, I turned my work, and now I'm starting with that stacked single crochet, and that counts as the first stitch of the round. And now I'm going to remove that stitch marker, which was previously the last stitch of the round, and that's going to now be the second stitch of the round. So that's how I join my rounds, and it's also where I'm going to start working on those decreases. Okay, so we're going to keep working in the round until we get to the end. So now we're at round 6, which is our puff stitch round. And the reason where that 6 comes up, it is not a 6 or a repeat or anything. I wanted the sleeves color block to sort of match the main body of the cardigan's color block pattern, right? So that's the only reason why it's 6 rounds of these stitches. Okay, so it's not any particular pattern. It's just so that the the sleeves color block matches the main body color block. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I just want to show you how I do the puff stitches. It's similar to when we're working in the rows. You are doing a puff stitch. So you're starting the round with a stacked single crochet, and then in the next stitch you're doing a puff stitch. Then you're chaining one, skipping one stitch, and then in the next one you're doing another puff stitch, and so on and so forth until you get to the end of the round. All right, so just keep doing this, and I will see you on the other side. But before I go off camera, I did want to show you how I change colors for the sleeves. So for the color C, which is that white off-white color, I did 6 rounds, and the 6th round was a puff stitch round. Then for the color B, I did 10 rounds, and the last round was also a puff stitch round. And then moving on to the color A, which is that burgundy, I did 15 rounds, and the last 2 rounds were decrease rounds. And I am going to show you how to do those. So to do decreases using double crochet 2 together, first you want to yarn over, insert your hook underneath both loops of the stitch below, then yarn over and insert your hook in the next stitch. Okay, so you're not going to complete your double crochet. Instead, you're going to yarn over in that next stitch, like so. Make sure you do it on the both loops. Yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through until you have 2 loops remaining on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through both those loops. You just completed a double crochet 2 together. So again, yarn over, insert your hook underneath both loops of the next stitch. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, insert your hook into that next stitch, like so. Then pull up that loop, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through until you have 2 loops on your hook, like so. and then yarn over, pull through both. And that's how you do double crochet two together. So you're just going to keep doing that all the way until you get to the end of the round, and then you'll do that for an additional round. So 2 rounds of double crochet two together, and then you're done. So this is the end of your first sleeve. You can now cut your yarn, fasten off, and remember to leave a tail that you can weave in later on. All right, so our sleeve is now completed, and now what we're going to do is repeat that for the next one. So this is what your sleeve looks like, or this is what it should look like rather. And again, depending on your measurements, right, the number of rows or rounds rather is going to vary. If you're taller than me or have longer arms, you're obviously going to have longer sleeves. But you know, essentially this is how you would create your sleeves, by working them in the round. And so this is what we have. And you can see that cuff at the end, which we obtained from doing the double crochet two together, right? And so, like I said, once you're done with that first sleeve, you can repeat for the second sleeve, and then your sleeves will be done. So I'll see you at the end of sleeve number 2. All right, and now here we are at the end of our second sleeve, which should be identical to your first sleeve if you followed the instructions and did exactly what you did with that first sleeve. So this is what we have for our second sleeve. Our first sleeve looks like this. As you can see, they are exactly the same. All right, now we're going to work on the border. Okay, we're going to add a border around the bottom. Starting with the bottom, we're going to work all the way around the bottom edge, then back up the panels, the neck, and then back down. All right, and we're going to do that border with color A, which is that burgundy or maroon color. So for the border, we are doing 2 rows of half double crochet, not extended half double crochet, just regular double crochet stitches for 2 rows, going all the way around the bottom, the sides, up the neckline, back down. So we're going to do 2 rows of half double crochet stitches, and then 1 final row of puff stitches, and that will conclude the border for this cardigan. Okay, so I'll do this off camera and I will see you at the end. And here's the end of the border. So as you can see, that last row was the puff stitch row. So we are ending, essentially we're ending the cardigan with a puff stitch row. So the bottom of the cardigan and the edges are going to be puff stitches, and which gives us a really, really neat border, especially with that contrasting burgundy maroon color against the gray and the off-white. So but this is it. Here's the final product. The cardigan is ready to wear. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy crocheting. Bye bye.